Hey guys, welcome back. This week, like I said, we're doing the checklist for when you're getting ready to publish your book. Okay, you finish your book, you've got somebody looking it over, editing it for grammar, if not content. You're working on your formatting, but today we're going to talk about your cover art. Now, specifically, what makes for good cover art. Now, in this context, we are not talking about a bookstore. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about an indie publisher, an indie author, putting their work up for sale. And these days, unfortunately, that means KDP. Kindle Direct Publishing is the only game in town as far as I'm concerned right now. I would love to see some good competition come up, but it just isn't there. So Amazon is where you're going to have to go. And that means that your cover art is going to have to conform to one absolute rule. Get this rule right, and anything else is just icing. Get this rule wrong, and everything else is irrelevant. Okay? And the first absolute rule of your cover art is that it has to look good in a thumbnail. If it doesn't look good in a thumbnail, it's pretty much worthless to you. Doesn't matter, it could be the most epic masterpiece ever. 99% of people are only going to see that thumbnail. Okay? So first off, when you're testing your cover art, shrink it down to that thumbnail, look at it and ask yourself, does that make sense? Does that look okay? Does that convey what I want it to convey? And it's a tough call. Making a piece of art actually convey what you need it to convey in a thumbnail is problematic. But that is the first and absolute rule of publishing on Amazon, because most people are just going to see those lists. And all the lists are is a thumbnail with the book title, the name, and your star rating. Maybe a couple of other things, and that's it. Okay, so that's your first rule. You get this right, and everything else that we're going to talk about today is just icing on the cake. You get it wrong, and people are not going to look at your book. And there's a lot of reasons people might not look at your book. You don't want this to be one of them. In fact, you don't want there to be any reasons if you can arrange it. You want to absolutely minimize all the reasons people might have to skip past your book. Okay, so you've got your art. It looks great as a thumbnail. Sweet. So what's the next thing? Well, consistency in your art is important if you're doing more than one book. Okay, this is something that most new authors don't catch on to right away. But making it so that your books are instantly recognizable as your books, your brand. That is like the next level. That's your second stage. If you're publishing your first book, this might not be so important to you, but you should still be thinking about it a little bit, because the sooner you can get that consistency of branding down, the better. For me, it was years before I started it. And now you can go and you can look through all my books, and they all pretty much have this consistent branding. It's because I work with mostly the same artists, and they understand the branding themselves, and I don't even have to think about it. But if you're working on your own, you're doing your own art, which is what I did when I started off, you might be thinking each individual cover, how do we make this look good? Rather than thinking, how do we make it look good and make it fit? And that's what you need to start thinking about right now. Okay? It will save you time and trouble and money in the future, because if and when you do manage to take off, at some point you're going to look back at your back catalog, and you're going to realize it looks like a mess. And then you're going to have to hire an artist to come in and fix it all up, and that will cost you thousands of dollars. That's what it cost me. So make it look good as a thumbnail, make it consistent along all of your other books. What's next? Well, you should probably be doing some research into what sort of covers other people in your genre are using, which means go browse the categories that you're planning on publishing in, see what their covers look like, particularly the top 10, the top 50, whatever. Figure out what colors are common, what combinations work, how they're working their titles in, those sorts of things. Because what works for them in that genre is probably going to help you out. Doesn't mean you have to stick there, You can branch out on your own. You can definitely carve your own brand out. But having a good idea what other people are doing, it's not going to hurt at least. Okay, these would be the top 3 most important things about covers. Remember, number 1, make sure it looks good as a thumbnail. Number 2, start thinking about your branding now. And number 3, do your research. Figure out what everybody else, what the most popular books in your categories are using, because, well, ultimately each category tends to have its own style, and you may want to go against that style, but a lot of times you don't. So, well, think on that. Tomorrow we're going to have another video out, and yeah, keep writing, stay safe, and see you guys next time.